Hey everybody, we're back. We got some questions regarding some color work I do. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in it, how I lay a color in a tattoo. So we made an image here. We have it. It's a tattoo I did about, let's say, 3 years ago. It's a very large-scale tattoo, some fantasy Japanese. We chose this piece not because of the design, but because of the variations of colors we used. There's a lot of color blends in there. It's almost my whole entire palette with extra mixes. So it's like 54 colors, and then I intermixed all those 54 colors with each other and made a never-ending amount of blends. And I'm gonna explain this a little bit what I did here. As you see, it's like it has a very dark background. As usual, I love to work with contrast. Contrast is more important than the colors you use or the line work you use. You know, if you make the right contrast, then you don't need so heavy line works. You get an automatic separation between the foregrounds and the backgrounds. So what I did here is like the line work was done all in one session. It's a whole rib cage. As you see, that's the chest, goes down to the groin. It has been done in one session, was 3.5 hours. The only power lines we actually put on is like right around this Japanese samurai right down here, and then we put a power line around the tiger on this side. There's no power lines inside the piece to make it more distinctive on the outside, to make it more sharp, and then the inside just has like almost like gray wash lines in the clothes, and then a couple lines in there, very simple, because we wanted to keep it that it still has an authentic look to it. When you look at Japanese tattoos, when they're done, they're very simple. They have some line work on it and then solid color. And I try to stay within that realm, but then still add some new twist to it. So that's what happened here. I made the hair very solid. I used lining black for lining, true black for that section, very dark. True black for the power line. Be very careful when you use true black with a thin liner. It has a tendency to like travel underneath the skin. It's a very thick pigment. You put it in, you're better off using the lining black and then build it up, make it a little thicker, put a second line, like go like this, then take a second line, and then go and fill it on the inside with a lining black. If you're not used to use very big, large scale needles, like 9 rounds or 14 rounds for lining. If you use 14 rounds or 9 rounds, try to step up your coils, go from an 8 rep to a 10 rep, so you have a little bit more power to it. Coloring, I did very little under shading. When you see the shading is very rough, again, to keep more a traditional way, not like a 3D realism piece. So it's very dark in the shading. It has like all shaded with lining black. It was cut with shading solution. In here we added a little white to it, so we have a gray tint. So it's not only a black, it's a white, just a hint. Just dip it into it. You don't have to clean the needle. Just go from black, dip it in a little white, and then use it as a shading. It gets that velvety shine to it in the gray shading. And then we laid it out, did all solid, no blends, very distinctive, very short like fades. And then even here, very like short fades, just like use the 15 Magnum curved signature one, what I used like since 15 years. If you don't know how it looks like it's a 15 Magnum and has a little slight curve to it, so the ends are not cutting into the skin when you stretch. And then we started like layering coloring. The colors, typical in the water, I use Marius blue, light blue. I mixed a little yellow in here, so it gets a little turquoise, like a turquoise color to it, just to give it a little different hue. And then here just straight up Mario blue, Mario light blue, and then I just went from the light blue directly into the Snow White opaque. And then there's a very important part what you guys maybe don't see it or don't do yet. It's like a lot of people go in when they work on, let's say, a Mario blue, and then they want to try to get a lighter shade. They're gonna go from the Mario blue, they clean their needle, then they go into the Marius light blue. I absolutely do not do that. I go from the Marius blue to the light blue to the white to whatever I want to go. I'm mixing without cleaning my needles. So what it actually does is it creates very unique shades, which are very hard to reproduce if you want to mix it or if you have to touch something up. But what it does is it creates those blends like this one here, where we had a little underlay, then we used a little red in it, and then we went to like a hard orange, to a soft orange, to a bright orange, and then to the golden yellow. There was not one cleaning involved off the machine. Not only does it save you time, but it also gives you a really smooth transition, instead of having like you're working from here to here in red, and then from here to orange, and from here into yellow. So you're better off dipping in, and just like it takes a little practice, because what's going on is like when you do that is you work it, and then you want it to go to yellow, and you end up in a bright orange, and you're like, oops, I have no room left, so what am I gonna do now? I have no yellow in the Tiger. So you have to be a little careful and tricky. If that happens, come backwards, work with a white over it, and try not to like scratch the surface too much, but come in with the white and go over the orange, and then lay a little yellow on top. It's a little trick what you can have, just in case if you run out of space. Same situations here. All those blends here have been created with a bright orange, and then a white and a yellow, and we just mixed it up, and then I used a little medium brown just to accent it on the side, so it has that skin tone type, so you see it reflects from here to here, almost looks the same. This is all pigment. There's not one spot in this piece which is having any skin in here, so everything you see is solid color. We use like a lemon yellow here. You can see it has a little greenish tint to it. The greenish tint is not a special color, it is just that my needle wasn't cleaned out from the green before. So it was like we were working on the flowers, and you see this was the first flower I made. So you see I did the green, I started dark green, mix it over to a light green, and then I wanted to be a little bit more contrasty and more graphic oriented. Then I used like a lime green, and then I just like maybe dipped it into water a little bit and like cleaned it up, and it went right into the lemon yellow. And that's that weird yellow what you get here with this greenish hue to it, which is, you don't want it always that it's so bright like blue, yellow, orange, you want to have it that there's some tones which go which work with each other and complement each other very well. Like this, if I would have used a straight yellow here, it would have looked like it would have been just two different color tones, instead of having a bluish tint in the yellow, and it fits to the bluish face. Same situation up here. I started out with a dark red, used a bright red, went over, used a little white in it. It turns into, our red turns into more pinkish if you turn it. It has like a little bluish hue to it. If you put more white to it, it's going to turn more into the purplish part. That's the reason why you can't really get it like pink. So you need to watch this a little bit. But all this part is made out of two colors in here, and then I explain it. This one here. This has been done with the dark red and the bright red, and then we just mixed it out with some white. That's it. Never a cleaning. We just went back and forth. I went out here, I went back in a darker one and used it here. So you get those millions of shades in a way you would have to have 100 different bottles, which we have. But in this case, you can intermix those 100 bottles with another 100 possibilities, and it's never ending. You can play. There is no ending for that. So just be creative and work on it. In here, what I did is I used the same colors, and then I have a technique which I call overshading. So I make all this in those colors, what I think it looks good. And then sometimes you need a little bit more oomph, you need a little bit more contrast, and your red is not dark enough. Let's say you work with a bright red. We make this all bright red, and then you want to have some wrinkles in here. Your bright red is not darker. It's not a dark bright red. So what you have to do is, you have to go into a darker color in the same family. If you go into a purple, a lavender, or a dark red, and then shade over that area what you already colored. Be very careful that it don't tear up the skin, but it's a very, very useful technique, what we learned over the years, and it's called layering. So you layer on top and on top and on top. You just have to be very, very, very careful how you do it. You can't be hard work and work very soft. And then of course, always, if there's red, black is a great contrast. We use the purple, it sets itself off. The orange sets itself off from the purple. We made this very distinctive that it comes out like there's almost no undershading. We wanted to make sure that you focus on this here, the red. And then there's the girl. He wanted like a geisha on the side. We made it very feminine, so it's more a passive section of it, so it's not really in your face like the tiger is. I think the tiger is mostly in the face. You look at him, and then the tiger comes out, and then secondary the girl comes. All the colors we used here are all lavenders. They're all like oranges, reds, whites, little highlights, all detailed. Nothing is layered in shading besides in here. There's a little shade in here, shade in here. We used the yellow, laid a little brown on top of it, and an orange to get a little effect in here to bring it to duplicate what goes on in here. But that's basically it. If there's any other questions, just leave us some feedback. I try to remember as much as I can every time I do something like this, but if you have distinctive questions to this piece, leave me some feedback and I'll get back to you, and I will answer them promptly, like at least within a week if I'm not on the road, but I'm more than happy to tell you anything you guys want to know. Alright, I'll see you next time.